What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. After we took a nice break after the Super Bowl to kind of digest a lot of the information going on here today, I am your host, Matt Garces. I should be joined by some co hosts here today soon. But in the meantime, I am here with you guys here live in the chat as we will discuss plenty of things going on here in the sports world today. How is everybody doing out there? Like I said, I am Matt Garces, your host. We are here talking about with the upcoming events, such as the fight this Saturday between Mario Barrios defending his 147-pound WBC strap against Ryan Garcia in what hasn't been much of a talked about bout. Also, we'll discuss a lot of things going on in the NFL world, such as the free agency shakeup that will begin soon here in the coming offseason as the league year restarts. Then we'll discuss some things in the WWE as we did attend a live show this weekend, which to me was a very good live show. Had a great time. Kids had a great time. Saw some good matches. Saw some interesting things such as Finn Balor using his babyface theme as he was taking on Jevon Evans in a great match. To me, was the best match of the whole show. And we will also talk about Adam Silver possibly taking away the NBA draft to prevent teams from tanking. Now, let's start in the beginning as I will cover the big fight this weekend coming up this Saturday, February 31st. Mario Barrios, Ryan Garcia. Guys, let me tell you what. This is truly what you would define as a crossroads fight. Now, Ryan Garcia obviously coming off his loss to Rolly Romero. Not looking good last May. Then has a controversy testing positive for performance enhancing drugs while taking on Devin Haney in what looked like a good performance only to be tainted by the supplement scandal. Mario Barrios, on the other hand, coming off two draws, a lackluster performance to me where he won against Manny Pacquiao. But after a rewatch, you could see that he wasn't really bringing it to Manny, possibly out of respect for a legend, or maybe just Manny Pacquiao was still that good at his older age. Who knows? But it did not look good. And then on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson undercard, he started off very strong, scoring some knockdowns, but then was knocked down himself and had to gut it out to gain that draw and hold on to his title. Now, back-to-back draws as a champion, not that good. It's as it looks into the optics of people that you have not successfully defended your title on what those would deem lesser opposition. Now I know the name Manny Pacquiao, legendary name. But this man is almost 50 years old. Mario Barrios being the younger in his prime, more athletic, larger man, larger reach, should have made easier work of Manny Pacquiao. Shouldn't have had a tough time against a Manny Pacquiao. Now, looking forward here against Ryan Garcia, I believe Mario Barrios has the tools to take down Ryan. He has a good 1-2 combination, straight punches coming down where Ryan Garcia still, who has not corrected his mistakes, where he tends to back up with his chin up high in the air, tends to try to leave his hands out and throw his left hook. Mario Barrios is one of the better punchers in and around his weight. His right hand is very powerful. He's knocked down plenty of opponents in his career on his resume. Can he, with the lead of Joe Goosen, take down some of these guys? Ryan Garcia, obviously, he's going to have the speed, and he looks very big. Ryan Garcia looks very sizable. They both look coming in around, I believe, on their last weight check, 7-day weight check, both within 3 pounds of the scheduled weight of 147 pounds. By all means, let's see how hoping and praying, right? Hoping and praying that these guys come in, nobody tests positive, nobody gets injured. It is Monday. Grand arrival should be tomorrow. Should get a press conference from the undercard on Wednesday. Then the main card gets their press conference Thursday, followed by the weigh-ins on Friday. And this all takes place live in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena on DAZN, which, as much as these main events seem to be lacklustering, The undercard beneath them seems to always have something to provide, as this one does. It's also in the co-main event. Richardson Hitchens will take on Oscar Duarte, who is a former opponent of Ryan Garcia, take taking him on for his IBF I believe, yeah, super lightweight world championship, followed by Gary Antoine Russell, the WBC super lightweight champion, taking on his mandatory challenger in a fight that was supposed to happen on a couple of undercards, I believe. I believe this fight was rescheduled two times, having to take place on the Sebastian Fundora and Keith Thurman undercard, and also on another card, I believe that was supposed to be the Bevo, I believe, a match in December. Supposed to be, but here he is now back in action. I'm pretty sure he's looking ready to be back and move on to better, bigger, and better things. Taking on Andy Hirioka, his mandatory challenger. Then you'll get the return of the Ghost, Frank Martin, coming off of his phenomenal knockout against Barthélemy in the later part of last year. Looking back and great and phenomenal. Taking on Nahir Albright in the junior welterweight division, also 140 pounds. And then you'll get the return of Beck the Bully. Bektamir Milikuliev will be in a super middleweight bout. Now, like I said, this is a great card. Looking at it, when you can say it's going to be a lot of good matchups. The rings tends to provide a very entertaining undercard. If you're one who watches boxing like you know these names, you see the matchup, you think, okay, these cards should be great. If you've got the friends to watch it, provide them whatever services to come over, watch, tell them, hey, if you can, check out this fight. These fights are going to be phenomenal. Jump in. My recommendation, because Beck the Bully seems like he should be in a nice, easy card, easy fight, but jump in on that Frank Martin, because Nahir Albright is former opponent of Keyshawn Davis, who is making noise himself, trying to get that Devin Haney fight. So we should see how he performs. Here, Albright gave Keyshawn Davis a tough fight in a losing effort, but a very good, tough fight. Frank Martin coming back after a very, very long layoff, but looking good at 140 pounds to start out. Let's see how he handles Albright. And let's see if he can keep that KO momentum going. Because if he can follow up with another spectacular knockout, maybe that Antoine fight, maybe that Hitchens fight, which he called for after his last fight, could materialize if Hitchens is to defeat Oscar Duarte. Now, looking at it like this, let's talk about what happens post. What happens post this fight right here? Barrios and Garcia. Mario Barrios, to me, needs this win more than ever to solidify himself as a champion. A true champion here defending his title. Because like I said, coming off, he defeated Yordenis Ugas in a very good fight. Looked very strong, but then the follow-ups were two draws. Now, if you want to successfully defend your title, and not only my eyes, but in a lot of the eyes of the fans and the public, you have to perform. You have to win. Wins, wins, wins is the best thing. Ryan Garcia did not look good in his Rolly Romero fight. A lot of people, he seems to be taking a step backwards, essentially, because it's hard to tell if Ryan Garcia is taking himself serious in this training camp, as he's turned back to his father, training him in the corner. Mario Barrios has changed trainers, going to Joe Goosen. And the fact that it's a lot of the questions of, do we have a serious Ryan Garcia? That's the big thing. Is he serious? Is he ready for a fight like this? If this is another loss for Ryan, is this it for Ryan? How many big fights are left? As he is a popular man on social media, popular amongst the younger demographic of people, but where does he go if he is not successful? Can he still make a Shakur Stevenson fight? Can he make any other fight around the welterweight division? Can he sneak his way into another title fight? Is a Conor Benn fight still interesting if he loses, or does Conor Benn simply stay in his mandatory position and take on a Barrios? Same for Barrios. Mario Barrios, this would be his third defeat, only losing to the elite of the crop of boxers, losing to Gervonta Davis and Keith Thurman. Now, there is no shame in those two losses. However, Ryan Garcia is not as accomplished as a unified welterweight champion, Keith Thurman, as a multi-division champion, Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, losing to a Ryan Garcia who isn't as accomplished, who is looking to bounce back off of your name, gonna be hard for Mario Barrios to maybe not only climb back into the rankings of a welterweight division to find a title fight, but a main event again, because this man has main evented a couple of pay-per-views by now as a B-side, no less, but still been proven as a good main event for boxing. Mario Barrios here with the win on this level against this man could propel himself forward as a true main eventer in the welterweight division, opening up many fights in this division, possibly against a Devin Haney, who a Barrios and a Haney, that is what people love to call the green print, finding themselves in a position where sky's the limit. Could he, skirt past the Conor Ben fight for unifications? We would like to think that, but it's hard to tell against what we would see as, like I said, Mario Barrios. Just against that in that Manny Pacquiao fight, it's really hard because I want to believe he just showed respect to Pacquiao. Now, yes, in that performance on Netflix, he didn't look too good. He got caught a lot. Not the best guy on defense. I don't know how Joe Goosen will integrate something like that in his training camp for this way. They both look in great shape, but it's he can't fall not only for Ryan's tricks, but not only give the respect to Ryan like he gave to a Manny Pacquiao. At the same time here, it's you look at Ryan Garcia and do we get a serious Ryan or do we get the joking Ryan, the crash out Ryan? Hard to tell here. Very, very hard to tell here on what's going to happen. But also, I'm looking down at the card, and the more interesting fight is that Richardson Hitchens and Oscar Duarte fight. That fight should be good. Another good clash in the super lightweight division of 140 pounds. I understand the layoff of Gary Anton Russell, I want to see. But at the same time, you got to break all this down. And to break all this down with us, joining me now is our friends over at Infighting FX. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise, Mario Munguia. What is up, Mario?
Salute to the champ. Machine Gun Matt. What's going on, champ?
Not much, bro. Here talking right now. I'm on the subject of this weekend's fight. Mario Barrios defending his 147 WBC strap against Ryan Garcia. What's your thoughts on this fight, man? Not a lot of hype around this fight this weekend. I feel like when we got to the Shakur and T.O. fight, that there was more anticipation for it. We're in fight week, and I haven't really seen much promotion or talk about this fight, man. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, man, I hope I didn't miss the wrestling, but I probably did. My internet was good. I had some problems with my internet. I had to read.
We haven't got.
Oh, good. Well, anyway, listen, you're absolutely right. I thought there was gonna be like a little more hype around this. Here's what's going on, I think, right? In with this fight, or maybe not with this fight specifically, but the landscape of combat sports and where it finds itself right now, and this specific fight, right? Because if it wasn't Mario Barrios Ryan Garcia, it would have been another fight. But the truth is that they exist right now outside of a bubble that is growing bigger and bigger, right? And we've seen this in wrestling, we've seen it in UFC. Now in boxing, it's starting to happen where when you find yourself on the outside of the constant news cycle, it just doesn't help. You know what I mean? It doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone, especially in an age where news cycles last so little, right? Like if you want to know like what the big like Kick secret or Twitch secret or how these like kids are making millions on stream, it's that every once in a while they come out, say something crazy, get in the news cycle, let it die down, and do it all over again, right? There's this adage in PR, right? I used to work as a publicist and a junior publicist, and you know the notion no publicity is bad publicity, right? That's not necessarily true. And I think when you look at where we are in the landscape of boxing and where we've been, PBC has represented something very, very specific for a lot of different types of fight fans. For guys like you and I, they fell a little short, but for other people, let's say in the LDBC community, right, that they are the premier. boxing. So I think that they've found themselves in a situation where the WBC hasn't helped themselves, and they're the people championing this fight. Oscar De La Hoya hasn't helped himself with the Verge fight and all these things. Ryan Garcia hasn't helped himself by saying ridiculously racist things and sticking to ridiculously racist tropes, specifically against George Floyd, the man who died at the hand of police brutality. But of all of that, I think that it's that Ryan's not done anything. The loss to Tank was brave in the sense that he took a gamble when he probably shouldn't have in the weight clause. And then he went and stunk it up against Rolly. Add in a steroid charge on that bitch. Or I'm sorry, I should say PED charge because it wasn't a steroid, but a PED charge. I'm sorry, you're just like, it's not that you're persona non grata in a sport that has super low standards for morals, but what it is that you have gotten on the outside with the people that drive this community, and it's mostly Hispanics and Black fans in America. Let's be honest.
Right, and then that's kind of what the angle I wanted to take as was, which I discussed kind of early on into this program, was you look at their last two performances each against Rolly Romero with Ryan Garcia, and then against Manny Pacquiao, an older Manny Pacquiao from Mario Barrios, who was coming off of another draw. Looking at the thought that this is a crossroads for these two guys to really prove themselves in the sense that Mario Barrios hasn't proved himself as a champion, because you two draws isn't a successful defense of your title, right? I mean, you draw on the biggest stage of Netflix on Jake Paul and Mike Tyson's undercard. You look good early, but then you have to scrap in a in a fight where you also got dropped, and then you bring in old Manny Pacquiao, who I rewatched that fight just this other day, right? People were telling the way the narrative was going was that Manny Pacquiao performed well. And to my knowledge, when I first watched it, I thought he was just showing Manny too much respect. And so I put it on the big screen just the other day and watched it again. And to me, I still saw the same thing. Mario Barrios showed him too much respect. He was never following up with his combinations. He was never trying to hurt Manny. He wanted to be in the ring with Manny. But to the regular eye and the perception that somebody like you and I and regular fans are seeing, he looks like shit against Manny Pacquiao, and people want to know why. Now, if you look at the Ryan Garcia, just like you said, he has one of the best wins you could have ever had against the Devin Haney. But then you get the scandal of the PED, and you go on this ignorant rant to try to clear yourself and not really get anything done with it, and only to perform back on a bigger stage again against one of the biggest stages where they put you in the middle of Times Square on the same weekend. They have you, Haney, and Tio, who were supposed to mix, and they're advertising you and Devin Haney getting a rematch if you both win.
They had Pat McAfee as in the commentating booth. They had the Batmobile on fucking lease from God knows where, and he shit the bed.
Shit the bed.
To be fair, a lot of people shit the bed on that night.
And to which, if you're fans of these people, or let alone if you're knowing of these people, because I've even asked my other co-host where he's a casual fan of boxing, he's like, yeah, I know these guys, but they both look like shit the last time I saw them. So it's like, why would I want to see them fight?
Yo, what's his name again?
Justin is my other co-host.
Justin, yeah. Yo, shout out to him. I don't know if he's watching or not, but that he delivers very, very helpful commentary from his position, right? Because here's the thing, the vast majority of casual fans don't believe they're casual fans, right? Maybe not the vast majority, but there's a significant percentage of casual fans that don't know they're casual fans. They think they're hardcore fans because they know Tank's name, Canelo's name, Shakur's name, Tio's name, and they think that makes them hardcores, right? And I'm not the gatekeeper of that, right? I'm not. I don't give a fuck what you consider yourself. But what the truth is you represent a casual knowledge in the sport. So for a guy like Justin who understands his place, he's able to give more nuanced information or not information, more nuanced like his feelings, you know what I mean, and his interpretation and stuff like that. So shout out to him.
Yeah, man. You drive interest though, because I asked him early on, like, "Hey, I know these names." He'd be down to watch it. It's still one of those things he is not really looking to pay for. But Mario, before we
Yeah,
clear off, what do you think on this card as a whole? Because as I said in my intro to the show, the rings, some of their main events don't really fit the main event spot when it comes to the fight. But when it comes to their undercards, they have the best undercards
they have.
that we've seen in the past year or two that they've been active in. What do you think about this undercard right here? Co-main evented by Richardson Hitchens and Oscar Duarte.
So listen, I'll put it like this. I think that the Richardson Hitchens fight is a very important fight for him. Oscar Duarte is a tested guy who has let's say veteran tactic style that he's able to rely on, right? Difficult guy to kind of like put away because he's got a very good poker face senses. You know, you never really know when you hurt him. And it's going to be a big test for Hitchinson, right? That said, though, the Frank Martin Albright fight for me is the most special fight on the card. I expect Hitchens to beat Duarte. If he doesn't, that says so much more about how good they promoted Hitchens than it does anything else, right? I know who Oscar Duarte is. So if Hitchinson can't get by him, then I know exactly what Hitchinson isn't. You understand? I know what he isn't, but I expect him to get by Oscar. That still leaves questions, right? In my mind, Frank Martin, Nair Albright represents a much more even fight with a stylistic challenge to both that speaks to their weaknesses, meaning that this fight, which I know a lot of people are going to think, dude, you sound fucking nuts. It's Frank Martin. You know, Nair Albright's been a solid, you know, up and comer and stuff, but it's like, you know, there's a lot of people that would say either of them could be, you know, considered the favorite or whatever. Personally, I think it's a very, very even fight. I think Albright presents a lot of difficult looks that we've seen Frank Martin struggle with in the past. Frank Martin, on the other hand, was a guy who had a very, very high, you know, point when he came into the spotlight, right? To this big bright lights of the boxing main event world, you know, real prize fighting. He had this very high, you know, people were high on him. He lost, and in boxing, it's sad, but a lot of fight fans that are casuals believe that a loss, it makes you unspecial or it's written you off. I don't believe that to be true, but this is a very good card. Beck also on it. One little real quick thing I want to say overall, though, I don't want to give like hater vibes, Matt. And if I sound like a hater,
No,
please
let it
tell
out,
me.
bro. Speak your piece.
Please tell me. It feels like we're giving the ring a little bit too much credit over the last few months or shows, I mean, because it's like you're in a situation where you have like all the fighters now. I mean, not all the fighters, but you have a very large amount of fighters fighting on your platform now. It might be different promoters from week to week, but this is what we always wanted. We didn't want HBO to be with the top ranked people and Showtime to be the PBC or Golden Boy. We didn't want that, right? We wanted a network to be a network, buy the best fights from the promoters that have the best fights to offer.
Right.
And it feels like a lot of this is stacked, and it is, and that's great. At the same time, a lot of these guys, they need the fights, right? Like they need the opportunities, they need the showcases. We're designed to expect trash. If you've been a boxing fan long enough, you know UFC is the ones that had the badass prelims and the fucking super stacked undercards. And boxing was a place where whatever you were paying for the main event, that was it. Everything else was top rank trying to get their guy over or Golden Boy trying to push the next big dude, right? So again, I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's like, you know, you're in a position where you can make these fights, and are they keeping up with the demand enough? Right. That's the problem when you don't have a Friday night fights, when you don't have ESPN boxing, you know what I mean? Or like a Showbox series or HBO Dark.
Yeah, something to give these guys that stay on these undercards that are super inactive, like a Gary Antoine Russell, somebody who's had his
main
fight.
event feel.
Yeah, a main
right?
event feel. He's had his fight rescheduled multiple times when he could have just had a simple Friday night fight or a simple Saturday
Exactly.
night headliner
Oh
in
man, well
DC
said.
room. But
Well said.
I think you hit it early on when you said this is like the ring. The one positive I give about the ring and Turkey Al Sheikh is he has the money to make the promoters play nice together. Because never have I seen like what world are you going to see a top ranked fighter and a PBC fighter on the same undercard when it wasn't a big co-promoted main event or something, where was the PBC and Golden Boy main? Would you think this would be that main event for a TGB and a Golden Boy main event on a card like this? It's really hard, especially with how I'm going to say ignorant, not ignorant, hard headed as Oscar De La Hoya is in doing business. As much as he loves to say he wants to help promote and save the boxing business, he doesn't really like to make these kinds of fights with his guys. But when the money's in the right place, it's hard not to stick your guy right there in that, man. But moving on to my next topic I want to discuss with you. As over the weekend, as we were at our house show here in Lubbock, Texas, by the way, which was a great house show. Kids had a
Yeah, you'll
great
have fun. It looked like the kids had a blast.
It was great, bro, for especially for what they had 7 years ago, where I'm not gonna lie to you, it was like really bad in the WWE terms because
Oh, I remember,
we
bro.
sat on
My
the
niece
floor.
was
Like we sat on the floor,
watching.
there was rows in front of us where we could scoot up, and they were telling people to scoot down. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
But this year,
That was when
this
they
past
had the
Saturday was
little
great.
bull,
Yeah.
the little bull wrestler with the tag team matadors.
Yes,
That was,
yes,
and they were
yeah.
like house show features for every Texas. It's like, nah, I don't want these guys, bro. Just give me Daniel Bryan. Like,
Yeah, you want the people that you wanted, but yeah, this year, this time around, it was completely packed. You had people in the nosebleeds of this arena, bro, for a house show, which was amazing for
wow.
them. But
Yeah.
overnight, sneakily, while nothing was on TV and everybody else was watching AEW live in Australia, Allegiant Stadium on their own Twitter sent out a special offer to WWE fans and people who wanted to attend WrestleMania to get, for me, what I've hardly ever seen, especially at this point on the road to WrestleMania, a 25% offer off to get tickets to WrestleMania for their holiday. And I don't ever recall a Valentine's discount.
No, sir.
Mario, what does this say about what is going on in the WWE today? Does it say that there's no interest in the business itself? Is there no interest in the WWE? Or is this just lackluster building for this year's WrestleMania and nobody's interested this year?
Yeah, I think that's I think it's the latter because first of all, what it says is the same thing that the wrestling news cycle, the wrestling news media cycle has been saying for like the last 2 to 4 weeks,
Mhm.
and that is internal discussions are happening at the highest level of WWE and TKO, questioning the creative specifically of Triple H, but as it relates to the road to WrestleMania. Now, you'll famously remember last year, Matt, and for your viewers, those that don't know, I'll explain just briefly. Last year, there was a feeling that this was the case, right? TKO, the big head honchos, felt like WrestleMania wasn't, it needed more, and Elimination Chamber needed to feel way more important. So Ari Emanuel, if you don't know who that is, Google him and then Google BlackRock. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, he's not a terrible human being. And so then whenever he was feeling this way, right? He called The Rock, who is a board member on the TKO
Mhm.
or honorary whatever. And he says hey, we need you to make this bigger. And so The Rock comes down and he does a whole storyline with Cody, and The Rock wants him to turn heel. Now we don't learn. I mean, that is the storyline, right? And oddly enough, that was what was happening in real life. Little did we know, The Rock was champion in the back for Cody to turn heel, and literally everyone else didn't like the idea. So they set this whole thing up. And then The Rock pulls the plug. There's a lot of speculation as to why he pulled the plug,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people say different things as far as why he didn't come back. And famously, the Wrestling Observer put out their last year awards, and The Rock and I'm sorry, John Cena and Cody's WrestleMania match won the worst match. I don't think that's true, but because there was one more match that was way worse. And they got that, and that's partly due to The Rock. So the whole point that I'm making is that we've seen the brass of TKO, right, interfere and fuck things up. And here's the thing, I'm old enough to be of the age of, I saw these people, not these people specifically, but people like Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan fuck up Star Wars. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it. I saw them fuck up the MCU, because what happens is these billionaires who only give a shit about money, they say, hey, you're tapped into something here. Let's suck it dry. Whatever it is, let's suck it dry, right? And that is great for making money and calling yourself one of the biggest companies in the world, thus having the ability to put on crazy production shows that are like on the surface very, very awesome. But from a storyline and creative standpoint, those of us that actually watch the product, those of us that actually know wrestling and expect a certain degree from it, especially at the top level, we're left feeling shorted. And that is exactly the narrative heading into WrestleMania. Yes, The Rock, I'm sorry, I keep bringing him up. The Roman and CM Punk storyline kicked off with a, oh shit, this is WrestleMania season type feel. But the fact that Roman didn't follow up on it, the fact that this isn't like a real thing, it's just like for the show, like it doesn't, it's not big enough, right? And now we're hearing that Bad Bunny could be coming back to WWE. And there's this talk of a potential Logan Paul. I don't think they do that, but Dom Mysterio's there's a lot. And so I think maybe WWE are in a position now where they can't afford to just ignore. They had a sellout, but remember, that was scarcity, right?
Yes.
Y'all haven't had a show in forever. And I remember the same thing happened in Corpus when the Attitude Era kicked off and they were like, you know, fuck the Mexicans. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't say that. Or maybe they did. And we didn't get a show for like 8 years, 9 years. It was something like that. It was a long time. We didn't get no wrestling in Corpus. They came back, bro. It was the hottest ticket for like a decade. They just sold out every year, every team, every house show. And then they finally gave us a Raw, SmackDown. You know what I mean? Today, it doesn't work as well. You know, they don't sell out as quickly.
Yeah, bro. And then not only that, I was going to bring up this point too. Do you think this could possibly be the fans taking a stand and you're not going to give us a lackluster show or just something that's, because I think the era of the Bloodline had a lot of people fooled with, it was decent matches, but better stories. We got so used to seeing stars interact with each other instead of having a big match. We got so used to what's going to happen with the Bloodline. When are we going to see The Rock and Cody Rhodes speak again? When are we going to see Roman speak again? And what's he going to say? It got so bad, so to the point where the main event of SmackDown was just Roman Reigns having a talking segment for 30 minutes. Could it be that this is the point where the fans put their foot down? Because bro, don't get me wrong. These house show tickets, crazy price, bro, for what they were early on for a house show, crazily priced, but it's still sold because they're starting to tap it. You can tell they're starting to listen to people on the inside when they say, hey, we need to hit the road. Because to me, like the people that we saw are the people that we want pushed. We've seen the Trick Williams, we've seen the Javon Evans, we saw a babyface Finn Balor, which I think is worthy news from a house show perspective. He came out to his old team in his old gear, and the fans over Javon. He was cheered over Javon. And to me,
wait, he was in a match with Javon?
So he went one-on-one with Javon Evans. He comes out to the old black and gold Finn Balor theme, the cheering and
he was the same when he came out against CM Punk.
Yeah. When he faced Punk the other day in Ireland.
The title in Ireland, yeah.
Biggest babyface on the show next to Cody Rhodes was Finn Balor. Everybody's, throwing up the too sweet, cheering him. The massive pop.
Okay, my bad. I thought you were saying they booked him as a babyface, but you're saying he got a babyface response.
Yeah, he got a babyface response over Javon Evans. And Javon Evans was the one, kind of playing to the
Yeah, he's
crowd,
the face.
playing to
He's
the
the face in that
crowd.
match.
He
Yeah,
wore like the college shirt and gave them a belt. But then out comes
I
Finn
hate
Balor.
that. I hate that cheap pop.
But
Just
that's
like I
what's
hate
crazy,
when it's a
that's
cheap
what's crazy
heat.
because out comes Finn Balor and everybody loves Finn Balor.
Yeah,
Everybody
there's nothing
to the
cheap
point
about his heat or pop. Nothing.
where I feel like to me it changed the booking and he won that match, which was crazier to me.
Uh,
Bro, because you think about
really,
it,
it felt that way.
because think about it, bro.
Yo,
Every
that's
time you see the
significant.
guy, the baby
What you're
face that's
saying.
pushing the local stuff and cheering and like talking about everything local that only the people that are around there would know about,
Sure.
you would be able to tell like, hey, he's probably gonna win because he's representing the home team, quote unquote.
Word.
But the fact that Finn Balor came out to such a babyface reaction and even being the babyface to me, it was legitimately an even babyface on babyface match. But back to the point of this is what we want. Not only do the storylines need to make sense, but we want the best product in terms of a wrestling match. Could the fans finally say enough is enough? We're gonna hit you where it hurts in terms of your pockets. Could that work for the fans? And is that what they're doing?
First of all, anytime someone says the phrase "enough is enough," I instantly think of the guy that used to do the best Owen Hart
Oh
impression.
yes, when he
You know,
yeah,
enough is enough and it's time for a change.
absolutely
Woo! I am not a nugget. Yo, he was so good.
yeah. No, he
Yeah,
had great
he-
impressions. He could do
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Oh yeah, he did a great Stone Cold too. And Vader. Anyway, to your point, I'll say this. I think the WWE knows that they have reached a point where they're the it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's not to say that their place is cemented, right? I think right now you're seeing something very special going on in AEW. Is it going to be enough to like bring them, to the numbers they used to have? I don't think so. Probably not, because that's not the way things work, right? um, everything that starts off new gets a buzz and then it fades back down to the core people. That's why you have hardcore fans that watch every week and casual fans that tune in when, you know, things go viral. Um, However, that said, as WWE exists as the main promoter, as the main entity in wrestling, such as the NFL exists in football, such as FIFA exists as on the world stage in soccer, football. All of those things are the case, but when you are at the level of WWE and you have those optics, what also comes with it is a need to produce bigger numbers, right?
Right.
So the best thing about WWE is that they are the central point of everything happening in wrestling. The bad thing about WWE is that they need to do more than just like pack a house. They have to sell tickets that are in some portions 44% higher than they were the year before, specifically for Mania. You're talking about house shows. I remember back in the day when you could buy a $20, $25 ticket,
Yeah,
might have
you
been
can do it.
nosebleed, maybe a little better than that, but that was it, right? You could pay $100 and the fam's going. That's not even close to what could be done today, even the worst tickets. Um, it's not the same when you're trying to reach these different levels, right? That's when you really have to like dial in and get that beyond casual fans. So the people
Right.
like you and me, we're gonna watch. Let's
We're gonna
not
go.
pretend we're not. We're gonna watch, and if we can afford to go, we'll go. But how many casual fans do they need to even come close to hit to that mark? So when you have casual fans basically saying, "Well, it costs a lot." And maybe I am a mark enough for WWE to pay for Roman and CM Punk night 2,
Right.
but I'm not big enough a mark to pay for the hotel it's going to cost, the flight it's going to cost, the food it's going to cost, the merch it's going to cost, to the point where now I'm making real life decisions.
Yes.
Am I going to WrestleMania and incurring all of the costs that it would take, or am I going to be able to like pay my mortgage? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's that serious, or pay my
Yeah.
car payment, whatever. Like, it's that type shit, because we're talking about that type money.
Exactly. And then that's why I asked as a fan, could this work? Because I brought this up on your show once in terms of if you guys don't want to pay for it, Somebody will. And as we both know, next year's WrestleMania takes place in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Those fans are
Speaking of
going to be
somebody
there.
will pay.
Yeah, somebody will pay. They'll
Yep.
take this show on the road and they won't bring it back. And then just like just like it worked here, they took it away for 7 years. And when the first show came up, it damn near sold out. And now, so could it? That's why I'm saying, could the fans do anything effective? Because, like I said, they can take this to. They could easily go from Saudi Arabia to Wembley Stadium, and they'll sell out Wembley Stadium for a WrestleMania. Same thing like it worked for All In. Uh, They took that show on the road from Chicago to London. To London, now they're in Australia. They could easily take WrestleMania to Wembley. They could take it to the Tokyo Dome if
Well,
they can
yeah,
tap
yeah, yeah. No,
in.
you're absolutely right.
They can take
But
it to Australia too because they have Rhea Ripley. They have a star from every country now. Do, could it work if fans as an equal, not just in America, but fans as a whole say we're going to take a stand and you're not going to see a big enough show, a big enough crowd, an interactive enough crowd.
I think not only does it work or can it work, it's working now. And you can see that by the scrambles they've made to change a card that we didn't even know of. Like, yes, those of us that watch the product were very aware of what likely was going to be coming down the pike. That doesn't mean that was what we were going to get. We'd hope they do something different and swerve us. But it's hard to believe now in this last 2 years that anything like that was going to come. So they scramble, they change all that. You're hearing all these internal things about Triple H and his creative. And so again, they can do it by what they're doing now, and that's not buying tickets to WrestleMania.
Right.
I don't know high dollar macroeconomics enough to understand the levity of the panic of being, what was it, 16% down or
Yeah,
whatever
it's
it was.
about 16% down at this
So
moment.
so 16%. That to me sounds a little not crazy again because I don't know macroeconomics as well, but that's a lot of money that you've already made, a lot of tickets you've
Yeah.
already sold. If you don't sell out, is it a failure? And that is where you get to the crux of what it is to wear the crown, because with it comes those types of issues, is that you have to sell out for it to be for it to be a success. And
Yeah.
now you have to make it a success based on the highest price tickets we've ever seen, some by far, some by metrics that aren't even like they're quantitatively bad. Like when we've seen uh industry raise prices of that magnitude, it becomes controversial. It becomes
Mhm.
a talking point. So the fact that they do that with this certainty that they'd be able to sell X amount of tickets, that's the only place I can see this levity coming. But it's already working because nobody's buying tickets. Now, you also have to wonder how much of that is connected to the fact that international travel's down a lot, right? There are a lot of people internationally that don't feel like now's the time to come to America
Yeah.
anymore, or at least for now. And then on top of that, Las Vegas, it was reported this about a month ago or so, or a couple months ago, and it was talked about this weekend because of the story that came out with the 25% off tickets and the sales, that Vegas had one of its worst years ever, and this is like the whatever number year in a row that they've continued to drop. They have
Mhm.
the highest rate of unemployment of all 50 states. Okay. So this place is, or the, I'm sorry, not the highest unemployment, the highest rise in unemployment. I
Yeah.
think it was like 7% or something crazy. And so, business hasn't been great in Vegas anyway, because the economy hasn't been great in a really long time. And
Mhm.
less, fewer and fewer people have the money to spend. So they're going to have to make it worth your bang. And now I think they're going to really go for it.
Yeah, and to me, it absolutely could, especially when you're trying to not only hit the same place twice, but when you like it's being reported when they hold essential blackouts where you can't even try to watch WrestleMania anywhere else, you have to go to
That's
the
a
show.
crazy story,
That
bro.
doesn't
Crazy
that doesn't
story.
help the local economy whatsoever if there's only one place you can watch the show, and that's at the show. Now, Mario,
Crazy.
I was tapped into you this weekend also as you covered the AEW show on Saturday, which was a good show. They
That
had
was
a really
good.
good show. Tapped in, as you guys know, our friends over here at Infighting FX on Twitch, on YouTube. Make sure you tune in. There was some controversy And Mario, we've had this discussion back and forth about what the WWE does to essentially throw Dave Meltzer aloof to get him to discredit himself. Now, I ask you about this situation that happened in between Wednesday and Saturday. The initial report on the February 11th, 2026 edition of the Wrestler Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that the WBD executives had pulled or blocked Brody King from appearing on AEW Dynamite before the big match where he, the previous week, defeated MJF for a world title match. The report claimed the decision was made because they didn't want the crowd engaging in anti-ice chants, which they were chanting "fuck ice." I mean, granted, they don't want anybody chanting the word "fuck" on TV anyway, but
Absolutely.
it was reported by Dave Meltzer that Warner Bros. Discovery, the people above Tony Khan, said that they don't want Brody on the show. Take him off. He can't be on there. WBD came out the next day and denied these claims, and it was also followed up by Tony Khan himself saying Brody King was simply on a plane to Australia. Dave Meltzer's reaction to that, following that, his denial was clarifying that the decision was purely a creative booking related, not even admitting that he just had bad information. This was, falsely reported by himself. They needed correction. Mario, you assume the WWE does this to Dave Meltzer intentionally. Dave Meltzer has more of a connection to Tony Khan and AEW as a business as a whole. He's even recommended people to work on their corporate structure who have been hired.
Yep.
Mario, did the same thing happen here? And how did Dave Meltzer get this wrong?
Okay,
What are your thoughts on this situation? As like we've said, you've claimed that they're doing this to discredit Dave Meltzer as a reporter, yet Dave Meltzer himself has reported false claims against a company he is quote unquote aligned with. What's your thoughts on this whole situation?
So I wanted to talk about this so bad this weekend. And I'll be honest, it's not that this isn't an interesting topic. It is. I just feel like this conversation splits the majority of fans in two camps, and both camps have irrational thoughts about what they believe, right? That Meltzer's a shield, that blah blah blah, right? That said, the interesting, or I'd say the more interesting conversation for me on this topic was the why of it all. And man, I'm not gonna say I wanted to say this. Should I go into the setback stuff? I don't want to say who said it because I don't want to. Okay, then I'm gonna do it. So in a group chat that Matt and I are in, a person who I'm not gonna say if they want to say it later, they can, said that Dave Meltzer was the Ellie Setback of wrestling journalism. Now, if you don't know who Ellie Setback is, he is a journalist in boxing. A lot of people have discredited him as a real journalist. They think he's more of just like a content creator, based on the fact that he saddles up with training camps and trainers. I mean, he's basically Robert's videographer at this point, right? And that to me is an interesting conversation because Ellie Setback clearly has a monetary gain from the way that he goes about, doing his job, right? And it's like academics. We heard of a month ago or so, academics admitted that he's been paid by Universal and Young or Lil Baby and a number of rappers over the years to either give good reviews on them or more frequently not talk shit about their music.
Right.
And in this case, that's kind of what Ellie Setback does. It's like he's never going to talk shit about the people that let him in. In Dave Meltzer's position, the things he's done have directly led to keeping him out of the WWE circle, right? Inner circle. And it's like, yes, he has his sources and he's well connected, but he's persona non grata a lot in a lot of those circles. He's right. Enemy number one. It's hard to answer this question because I don't see what would have driven Meltzer to report something without getting it verified and double checked, right? On the other side, what does Tony Khan or anyone at AEW gain from this story being put out there? Like what do they think happens? Like all the liberals just tune in out of spite now, or like what do you think? Like because and this is what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
very interesting to me because WWE I think has an agenda and I understand that agenda. Dave Meltzer has, and people like Dave Meltzer have spoiled a lot of big wrestling moments that would have been huge pops had it not been spread around the internet. You know what I mean? Immediately. So I get why WWE would maybe want to muddy his waters, right? And try to like keep things more secretive and in a world of kayfabe. In AEW's position, I don't see what Dave Meltzer like what he thought would help them like at all. Like you make the network look bad,
I mean,
right? And
outside
then
of a
on the
couple
other
clicks,
side,
yeah,
you
right.
split. Say that again.
Like outside of a couple of clicks on your newsletter, what does this benefit?
Exactly. And then here's the other part. People like you who aren't marks and appreciate journalism, right? He's lost you now, right? And I'm not saying he didn't lose you a long time ago. I'm just saying that if you're a Meltzer guy, someone who thinks like you, someone who's rational, someone who doesn't like to pick sides,
Someone like Tony Khan.
then guess what? You're not listening to this guy anymore, right? Like this, like I listen to a lot of like political stuff, but I listen to stuff on both aisles.
Right.
And I am very similar when it comes to getting rid of one over the other, right? If I'm hearing a leftist come on saying crazy stuff that I know is not true and it's just to propagandize, then I'm done, you know. And on the right, if I see a guy who says that, you know, betting's wrong and it's immoral and this is how, you know, the government and the Satan run government is trying to get you to be, and then they're taking fucking DraftKings money. Yeah, dude, I think I'm done with you now. Like I think you've maybe shown yourself or been exposed or corrupted yourself or been corrupted or whatever the fuck, right?
Yes.
Meltzer strikes me as something different, dude. I don't know what drives this guy. But this was a bad look. This was a very, very bad look because somebody's lying and it's really difficult to say who. And so in those situations, aren't you going to just assume that everyone's dirty? And that's not fair, by the way, Matt. It's not fair to look at it that way, right? But how can you not understand the rationality of a fan who's watching this, here's this story, and literally like hours later, people are like, no, not true.
Not true.
Literally not even close to true. And again, Meltzer offers only a slight abrasion of what he originally had put out there. Not a real correction, not a real got this one wrong, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what do you think? I mean, does he benefit anything like that isn't on the surface, that isn't super easy to I don't know. What do you think?
To me, this was what the confusing part about it was, because like I've said before in the past, Dave Meltzer, as we all know, is very closely aligned to AEW and Tony Khan. Him and Tony Khan have conversations that's been out in the public and admitted for sure. Tony Khan and Dave Meltzer, they'll conversate. Dave Meltzer, you know, which is why the WWE doesn't favor Dave, is Dave Meltzer will push the AEW product more. You know, it's come up in controversy that, you know, in the, what is it, 6-7 years that they've been a company as a whole, they have almost 45-star matches and WWE has 10. And
Yeah,
their
to be
entire
fair, though,
existence.
the relationship soured between Meltzer and WWE long before AEW was an
Yeah.
entity. You know, that guy was out of the loop for a while leading to that.
But it's him pushing the style of wrestling that he
That he
likes,
favors.
and like he says in his ratings, this is something I would want you to go watch, meaning he's trying to get people to go watch AEW.
Sure.
Now, what I don't understand is, like you said, he probably has the easiest path to confirm a story with the source. If not Tony Khan, somebody directly under Tony Khan. He has contacts with those guys. Some of those guys, he got jobs just off of a recommendation to Tony.
Mhm.
Why he would do something, like I said, outside of maybe getting a couple of clicks, because that moment with Brody King as he's standing across MJF and they're chanting that chant went viral. I've never seen more people. I had people messaging me that don't watch wrestling asking if this really
Same.
happened.
Same.
And then the show
I
on
had people on Saturday
the
calling,
show on
asking
Saturday
what
did a
time
good
it was
number.
on.
The
Say it
show on
again?
Saturday did a great number.
I didn't even see it yet.
So there was no way to promote like controversy. because people were already interested in what this match was going to be. Because
Yep.
you see this moment, and then you see a guy that looks like Brody King, who, off of first glance, you might think support the other side, but if they're chanting "fuck Ice" on their network in favor of Brody, they're gonna draw the casual eye off of that moment alone.
Yep.
To me, especially because Dave didn't even say, like, hey, I got this wrong. We misreported this. I was, thrown for a loop. I didn't get the chance to fully confirm, but we were live on the show and it just came out. I don't know why Dave Meltzer, especially with what his access is to that company, I don't know why he couldn't or didn't confirm, or what benefit this did, especially because you have WBD and Tony Khan saying, no, this is not true. They're on a plane.
Yeah.
They're on a plane to Australia. That's why he wasn't here.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I
No.
couldn't get you a straight
It's
answer as to
crazy.
why.
And to add to your point, it's like you're right. Like all Dave did was muddy this up within the community. That's all he did. And what kind of impact does that have? I'm not sure, if any, but I do know that it had like close to no impact compared to CNN putting out a piece, on the day of. And that's the thing, is like,
Yeah, this
I
made
can
national
see,
news.
yeah, and I could see, um, Dave or somebody giving him the information, making this sound like, oh, look, AW and Brody King are so, against ICE and the Gestapo style of militarized community shit that we're seeing, that at the end of the day, this is a guy you're going to want to support, even if you don't watch wrestling.
Right.
But I mean, the idea of like cutting your audience in half, like I don't see why you would go that far with it, to the point where you'd want to overly politicize it and then throw other people off. Like right now, there are a lot of people that don't understand this situation, right? They're not Republican and they're not right wingers. What they are is they're people that have heard that this is all about getting illegals out. And sure, that's absolutely the case. And most people on that side do agree with it. We've seen the numbers of people that agree that, illegals should be come back to the country the right way, but it's the method in which they're using that more and more regular Americans are having a problem, right? If you have fleas in your house, you don't nuke your fucking house. You don't burn the house on fire. That's not what you do. You know what I mean? Having a shitty plan isn't the same as having a plan. And so when I look at it and I look at this, I can say two things can be true at the same time, Matt. Dave can do a bad job as a journalist and still be well connected. And that means like he can still be who he is, even if he says bullshit, right? And that's the worst part of this, is that it continues forward and it doesn't do anything to help anyone other than the people that were already on that community, other than the people that are already diehard observers. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And by the way, politics is the easiest marketing machine to launch, right? All you got to do is make someone mad enough to watch.
Does this change your view on the WWE's doing this on purpose? Are these a lot of reports that Dave's getting wrong, just quick knee-jerk reports that he's okay with getting wrong as long as he gets a click and gets a reaction and people talk about it?
So I'm like in a lot of communities, right? I'm in like some gaming communities. I'm in, certain political communities, but the one community that I'm in that I never talk about is the UFO community. Now, I'm not a hardcore UFOer, all right? I don't believe that reptiles are in the government or whatever, not at all. I do believe that my eyes are capable of telling me things that I can see, and I also am aware that the government has lied, does lie, and will lie in the future. So like I say all of that to say this, misinformation is a weapon. It's such a weapon that there are certain people in the CIA, FBI, Air Force that are literally given the commission of just being people who analyze and provide disinformation. So does it alter my opinion on whether the WWE is like the main culprit of like Dave getting it wrong? Yes and no. No, in the sense that I never really felt like it was like a WWE only thing. But yes, in the sense that I do think that this is no different than everything else. Like, I think even people that Dave would consider himself like friends with, beyond the journalism ties, beyond the you're my source ties, those people would use him in a heartbeat to get a story out, right? Like, if I had a personal relationship with Meltzer and I was driven to do, corrupt things, or I was self-centered and I had a way of getting him to like promote my show, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, would you do it? Lie to him, use him to promote your agenda, knowing that it won't go back on you, right? I don't know. I'll put it this way. I think that every single wrestling promotion has a promoter capable of giving disinformation
That's true.
purposely.
Now, Mario, before we wrap it up here tonight, I want to get your opinion on this because it's a sports fan. We love to talk baseball on our side
Oh,
time.
I'm so glad. Wait, you're talking about the dunk, or you're talking about the draft content, or the draft?
The draft, which during NBA All Star Weekend, Commissioner Adam Silver floated the idea of just being done with the NBA draft to prevent teams from intentionally tanking to try to get a top pick. This caught a lot of attention because sure it could help some of these teams, keep the league competitive, but there's a sense that with all the talk of a team being moved to Las Vegas and bringing back the Seattle Supersonics, it is a sense and conversation that Adam Silver is trying to eliminate the small market teams. Because before I let you go on this, my take is that if you allow these new class of rookies in any sport who now have dealt with agents, dealt with negotiations for their own NIL deals, how many of those people are really going to go in terms of the NBA? How many of those people are going to go to a Milwaukee, a Portland, a New Orleans, a Charlotte, a Utah? Would you really be willing to go there, or would you try to make your way to a New York, a Miami, Los Angeles, San Antonio, Dallas? To me, it seems too convenient that as much as they're trying to help improve and competitive the league, it doesn't seem like this is the strategy that you would want to tank to essentially open the floodgates and let these guys run wild and negotiate their own way into the league. And not only that, where does this leave if teams somehow power themselves with the star rookies coming up? Because remember, in the NBA, it's only a 3-round draft. Quick 3 rounds. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Everybody gets a couple picks. I can see the point of where he's also said that, a lot of these teams have traded away their future already. Teams like the Lakers, teams like the Bucks,
Yep.
teams like Miami have already traded picks away into 2030.
Yep.
Now, as I was saying, you have people that have already dealt with negotiations. A lot of teams are very willing to take on a luxury tax to bring in a star, and if they bring in a young star at a better base rate where they can clamor into their own team, powering themselves further with the top pick. Like, imagine if you slid a Wemby in New York with a Jalen Brunson, or if Wemby went to Boston, or if Wemby went to Los Angeles with the Clippers or the Lakers, or imagine Wemby on the Thunder, like with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren. That would make them overpowered, and these small markets won't survive because then they'll just have a slim pickings of the veterans that aren't on that team that bigger market teams have made sacrifices to let them go. Mario, what's your thoughts on this? Not only for the NBA, but as an idea for sports as a whole, what effect this could have by allowing rookies to enter the league as unrestricted free agents?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
have
have
been
been
hearing
hearing
this narrative
narrative.
for a very long time. And NBA is not the only league that suffers from intentional tankings to better their draft picks and stuff like that. That said, the NBA has designed itself in a way in which that kind of stuff is much easier to do, or harder to successfully do, I should say. Um, I don't love this idea at all. I really don't. And it's not that I'm not willing to hear a better proposal, but like, we don't have time to go over, some of the ideas that are being floated out there on the internet. but I can say this: any idea you hear, whether it's like a pool situation, lottery situation, a playoff situation, whatever the fuck it is, you are going to find a system that has just as many, if not way more holes. There is no alternative that I've heard that allows for as much fairness as this. And it's like, if your whole idea is like, oh, they're, we're trying to get rid of teams losing on purpose or tanking or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you're not understanding then what some of these markets are up against. I mean, obviously he knows better than any of us, but that's the thing. It's like, how much consideration are you giving it? You're telling teams not to utilize certain strategies that allow them to get around the big money aspect that comes with developing a championship team. Kansas City is in a market that's like, oh, this crazy, but guess what? They put themselves in a situation where they bettered a team, they worked within the rules, and they've established themselves. Many years ago, you'll remember this, like a decade or so ago, Tampa Bay Rays. They had Evan Longoria, they had
Huh?
Pena at first, they had Crawford in the outfield, Snell as their ace. I mean, they had one of the best squads, and they were built from within. Houston Astros, same thing, right? Duve, Springer, Bregman, all these guys came from the farm system. So when you find teams are working within the system, you have to question why change it. So I get where that narrative is coming from, the idea of getting rid of these smaller marketplaces, but I don't believe that the NBA or any league is in the market of making themselves smaller, right? So I don't know what this would be about. I don't know, because again, it feels like we're not getting the full truth. It feels like we're not getting all the optics here. And I don't even think, like, the commissioner's Adam Silver is an idiot for even having this conversation, dude. Like, it's like, Zuffa. It's like Dana White trying to sell Zuffa
Yeah.
5-10 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? It's just,
Well,
anyway.
it kind of leads into what he wants to do, Mario. And like I was saying, and to me, it's the elimination of the small markets because how many people are watching, how many people are watching a Utah game, how many people are watching the Pelicans, how many people are watching, Portland outside of the state of Oregon, how many people are watching these teams,
Yeah,
and then not only that, when it comes to in terms of tanking, especially in the NBA, a lot of these teams just suck, and they're putting out their best. That's like you look at a Charlotte, that's their best, and they've been in the lottery the past few years. New Orleans, especially, that's been their best, and they've been in the lottery a few times. My thing with that is I feel like he's essentially going to force these smaller market teams out of their towns and cities into the bigger markets, or even merge into different teams. Now, in that fact that I feel like it's gonna press like how we just seen in the MLB with the past couple champions. When you look at the Dodgers and the Rangers, the MLB has this problem now when they just spent the most money and essentially bought themselves a championship. If you do this with rookies in the NBA or in any league for that matter, imagine if the NFL started doing this, or if baseball, even if we don't have to draft you, come straight from college and negotiate your way into the league.
yep, yeah,
I feel like it is truly an I'm not gonna label it a firm attack yet because, like I was saying, it's just an idea you float out there, kinda like the MLB commissioner when he's like, "Oh, what if we had like a golden ball or golden bat or ghost runners?" Things like that. He floated those ideas to see
yep,
reaction, but the fact that Adam Silver had such a more than casual conversation about this in front of the press,
exactly,
in front of
exactly. That was my thing. He's
"Hey,
an
let it
idiot for
think
that.
about it."
Yeah,
Not
no, no,
only
no. You're so
that,
right on this.
not only to move them out of their city, but to, quite possibly create an international league and take over, where they love basketball in China and Japan. Maybe get themselves into London. Maybe get themselves into Italy, get
Yeah,
all those players from Slovenia closer to the league as possible, man. But
that's
it is
that's what these other leagues are seeing, right? They saw how big NBA, or I'm sorry, how big that basketball is getting internationally, right? And that's
yeah,
why, the Cowboys are going to play, wherever,
Brazil, yeah.
yeah, Brazil, next year. We've been
And not
having
only that,
London games and
the
all that.
All-Star game theme is USA versus world. So The
No
international
shit.
play is already up.
Oh,
That's how they changed it. It was USA versus
wow.
World. They played 4 separate games. They played 4 quarters essentially, but they swapped different starting fives and caught it at 4 games, and that's how they're setting it up. So that's why to me, they're gonna eliminate the small markets team and create international teams that come and play over here and have a home base here. That's why I'm
Whoa.
saying it's super dangerous to like, okay, if we can just get if we can make it to where the stars they're gonna just start a bidding war and these little teams like Portland, little teams like Utah, even though Utah has a rich owner, he's got multiple sports franchises to take over. And the NBA cap space is only at 160 something million with the luxury tax at 180 million.
God
You're
damn.
gonna you're gonna if you can get a high priced rookie, but you're not gonna be able to get a star. You're not gonna be able to get
No,
him
not at all.
you're not gonna be able to get him depth behind him. But that was my big take on it. And I feel like that's the direction they're going just because of how he held the conversation of, hey, let's just get rid of the draft. And I love how he painted to eliminate tanking because only a handful of teams really tank. If they really want something, like we saw the Cavs tank for LeBron. We just
Sure.
saw the Spurs tank for Wemby, and
Webby. Yeah.
the Hawks and the Mavericks tank for Luca and Trey, even though they traded them to each other. But
Yeah. No, no,
I
no.
don't
You're
think
absolutely right.
that.
And
Go
I
ahead.
want to add one little thing for people that don't see where you're at on this because I see where you're at. This is how it starts, right? Like commissioners and leagues at the size of the MLB, NBA, NFL, they don't come out and like unilaterally do something, right? Like that's never been the case.
Yeah,
And I'll use baseball as an example, right? It was a decade ago, maybe a little more, who knows? But the idea of AI or assisted
yes, assisted ump.
outs,
Yeah,
assisted umps, balls and strikes. And 20 years ago, using replay, for the fouls and things like that, challenges, all of those ideas were at one time little excerpts that were thrown out by a
mhm,
commissioner or by an owner who's like in with the commissioner, right? Like one of the marquee people, like a Jerry Jones, right? And it always happens roughly around the same time. You know what I mean? In baseball, it's always in the winter meetings, right? In football, there's a couple different times it happens in football. But with
yeah,
basketball, this is a key time, right?
yes,
When the Super Bowl's on, and you know what I mean. You're able to kind of like ruffle the feathers and get as much attention as you can. That said, this is how it starts. So I see where
mhm.
you're at. I see what you're cooking, champ. Very, very high level thinking there.
Yes, sir, absolutely. But our time is up here, ladies and gentlemen. That is the show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for the likes. Thank everybody for tuning in and watching. Mario, where can they find you live with Monday Night Raw tonight?
Oh man, they can find me on at Infighting FX. You got to put the at though. Everybody's been telling me if you just put Infighting FX, it doesn't pop up. You have to put the at Infighting INFIGHTING and then an F and an X at the end, all one word. We'll be live for Raw. Probably talk a little boxing too. What happened? Oh, the Paramount fights were this weekend. And
Great fight.
Barrios and like we talked about a little bit. I'm gonna do some watch alongs too this week. I want to watch the tank fights for both guys.
Mhm.
Just get like a little bit of, you know what I mean, like whatever. So if you want to come and we could do like a split thing if you want. You could take YouTube and I'll take Twitch or
For sure.
whatever. I mean, honestly, I don't give a fuck if we're doing the same screen, show on the same spot.
For sure. For sure. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, as you have before, tune into our friends over at Infighting FX. I am Matt Garces with Talking About Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for tuning in. We will be live again later this week as we react to Mario Barrios and Ryan Garcia. But for my co-host Mario and our friends at Infighting FX, see you next time.
Peace.